part of the SysML representation set, use cases describe the functionality of a system from the perspective of the user. The use case diagram is a graphical representation of actors, humans, blocks, components, and use cases. Use cases are effectively the names of model-based systems engineering threads, capturing concepts and context that should be translated into threads and the integrated system logic. They are often used as elicitation and discover tools, helping to better understand the system under consideration and transition from requirements and operational context to behavioral threads. The conceptual modeling flow begins with requirements. From the requirements, you define the system boundary, physical and functional, and identify the context. From this context, and the operational context that drives it, use cases are identified. The use cases are then elaborated by functional threads, which provide the insight needed to develop the integrated logic. Note that this is not the only flow, nor is it the prescribed flow. A view of how use cases fit into the greater language of model-based systems engineering is shown here. Use cases can be tied to requirements. They can also exist free-floating. However, this conceptual map places use cases into the overall context of the MBSE model. They serve to make the development of threads more disciplined, explicit, and rich. The subject identifies the system that this use case describes. It is a large box in the middle of the diagram and is labeled with the name of the system. Note that the subject is inherited and does not have to be linked to every level of the use case model. GENESYS starts with the entity use cases and looks up the ancestor hierarchy until it finds a use case that describes a component. In this traversal, GENESYS considers the included in, extends, and generalization of relationships. Two levels of use cases are represented within the subject frame. The direct children of use cases are identified by the includes relationship. The use cases are linked to these children by the includes, extends, and generalization of relationships, representing the second level. On each extends relationship, there is an extension point attribute. Extension points represent the places at which use cases can be extended. This attribute is displayed in the node of the extended use case, as well as on the line connecting the extending use case. Use case specializations are also shown on the diagram by using an unfilled arrowhead at the point of connection with the use case. The actors represented around the boundary of the diagram are the components involved in the use case on which the diagram was opened, plus any use case shown on the diagram. Actors are shown in two different formats. By default, components of type human are drawn as stick figures, with the name displayed below the stick figure. All other component types are drawn as rectangles, with a corresponding icon template defining the content. You can opt to show all actors as stick figures by selecting the option Always Use Stick Figures in the Properties tab of the toolbox. The use case diagram is a free-form diagram. GENESYS defaults to specific layout behaviors, but you are free to rearrange content within the bounds of certain constraints. All nodes on the diagram are resizable as well. Simply select one and drag at one of the squares on the corner or sides to make it bigger or smaller. Use cases are drawn in a two-column format inside the block representing the system of interest. The children of the use case upon which the diagram was opened are drawn on the left edge of the subject frame. All second-level use cases following the includes, extends, and kind of relationships, are drawn along the right edge of the subject frame. You can select and move any of the use cases on the diagram. If you do not want to see the second-level use cases, you can uncheck the option Show Second-Level Use Cases from the Properties tab of the toolbox. Actors are displayed along the left, right, and bottom edges of the diagram. Actors participating in the child use cases are usually drawn in the left column. Actors participating in the secondary use cases are usually drawn in the right column. Actors participating in the top-level use case, but unrelated to the children or secondary use cases, are usually drawn below the subject frame. Actors can be moved from region to region, but cannot be displayed within the subject frame. If dropped in this region, GENESYS will automatically move them to the closest diagram edge. Sometimes you want to see a collection of use cases on one diagram that are not connected in your model. You can create a package to contain the desired use cases and then display a use case diagram on the package to display those entities. All of the same diagram behaviors mentioned before are still valid. A good reference for more information on use case diagrams is Chapter 12 of A Practical Guide to SysML, the Systems Modeling Language by Sanford Friedenthal, Alan Moore, and Rick Steiner. For more information and resources on GENESYS, please visit our website or contact our support team.